Hey sophomores, here we are, back again to consider the value of hard work. Chapter 2, 10,000 hours. Okay, over the course of the text that we've read so far, you've had a chance to think about the impact of relative age on success, like how old you are within your group based on how the group uses birth dates and time and those types of things. And then you also have the advantage of exponentially compounding experiences. When you have access to better instruction and more opportunity, those advantages compound over time. Now, both of those things have a little bit more to do with like opportunity, right? You have relative age, you're born at a certain time, you take advantage of opportunities. Certainly there's some preparation there, but if we're considering that talent, preparation, and opportunity triangle, the third piece we need to consider here is the value of hard work. You can't help when you're born, but you can absolutely help the way you spend your time, or at least people in privileged socioeconomic classes often can when they're situated as young people. So today's objective is to consider which of these factors, these ingredients for success that you see so far, are you in control of, and which of these factors are difficult or not impossible to control. Now, 10,000 is obviously an average, but what Malcolm Gladwell is going to argue is that one of the very important ingredients for success is hard work, the amount you practice. He's going to argue for a specific number, and you may or may not agree with that, but what you do want to appreciate, right, is that hard work is a component in success for almost everybody. At this point, I want you to pause in the video and I'd like you to go ahead and read. Yes, this is longer than 25 minutes, but as we mentioned, you chose honors. This is everyone's favorite book in the past, and I want you to go into junior year with the same content and the same knowledge, right, that my students have had in the past. So pause, read, download the audiobook, and take a walk if you need to, and I'll see you back after you've read. Okay, I'll take a second to summarize what you've read in case you are just still watching the video because, this is about essential learning. So 10,000 hours. Gladwell presents that he believes this is a quote-unquote magic number for true expertise and greatness. It's rare, he argues, that people are able to accomplish outlier-level success with less than 10,000 hours of work. It's ultimately a tremendous amount of time and something that requires you to be supported by other people. Spending 10,000 hours, for example, playing piano, or working on the violin, or writing, or teaching, as I've done, ultimately requires, right, the opportunities that you have and the support of a team. So with that, my friends, 10,000 hours obviously is about hard work. It's about preparation, but it requires opportunity and oftentimes talent for you to continue working for that long. Bill Gates, right? Here we are. Now, I want you to take a second, okay, and consider this hometown boy, like we mentioned, right? He was somebody who's from Seattle, and so we're going to take a peek at him as a local case study. Here's a picture of Bill Gates in middle school. I also just want to give a shout out for the powder blue turtleneck in the background with the matching coat. That's some nice 70s style. Anywho, with that, my friends, right, he is somebody who went to Lakeside. Mr. King, actually, who may be your teacher in the future, he taught at Lakeside at one point. But anyway, the Moms Club at Lakeside felt the need to create a computer club that would give their students the edge. So this Moms Club went ahead and bought a computer that they were able to use. In addition to that, Bill Gates was able to sneak out of his house. I was not allowed to sneak out of my house. My mother always knew where I was. And so my dad did too. But in the long run, right, I would never have been able to sneak out to a college to program in the middle of the night. Bill Gates was allowed to do that. So we have some opportunity there. But he also had over 1,500 hours of programming, right, at a time when no one had 1,500 hours of programming. There is a compounded advantage to seat time as part of what most adults argue about success. So yes, a lot of people like to argue that Bill Gates was a dropout, a college dropout, but dropping out of Harvard to begin Microsoft, because this is the moment, it's completely different than just being a dropout. We just want to remember. But of course, he made the Windows operating system. Just think, every time you signed up for flex time, this man was a part of the experience. So that's what we call outlier style success. He's one of the two Bills that we're going to talk about today. Continuing our summary, a second Bill. Okay, another Silicon Valley man wearing a black shirt. But no, 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 no turtleneck. This is not Steve Jobs. This is Bill Joy. Bill Joy is somebody who is lesser known than Bill Gates, especially in Seattle, but ultimately I think just as influential on the internet because of a variety of different situations, like a system bug that allowed him to go ahead and continue to sit in this terminal. Bill Joy was able to use 10,000 hours or more experience, right, to go ahead and learn to code. He learned to code better than anybody else. He wrote the software that allows you to access the internet. And so if we don't appreciate kind of the bridge that he provided between two technological eras, that of remote computing, like individual computing, and that of collective computing, then we would be underestimating his work. But again, a fluke like Bill Gates' parents allowing him to sneak out allowed him to become an outlier. But it's not just a fluke. It's a fluke plus continued opportunity plus the support of other people. These dudes, the Beatles, early Beatles, no mustache Beatles. Beatles, of course, is the third group of people, the third sort of white man. And I want you to know that I noticed that and that Gladwell notices that because we're talking about people that have been historically outliers. And sadly, there have been gatekeepers to outlier level success that have had a lot to do with wealth and race. So as we look through this and as we consider this narrative, right, appreciate that what we're talking about are historical patterns that ultimately, on some level, can be improved. But again, third group of white guys, the Beatles story. Okay, so we were going to appreciate here that the Beatles ultimately were able to go ahead and be incredibly successful because not only of their talent, though, I mean, I don't remotely want you to think that that is not something that I admire. I am a big, huge fan of the Beatles. But part of what made them so good is that they played constantly, right? They played for 8 hours, 7 nights a week in Hamburg. And because of that constant practice, they became good. A band like that performs all the time, kind of like a teacher performs all the time. You accrue these 10,000 hours of practice by doing several hours each day. So, like we said, they became incredibly popular in the 60s and 70s. They changed the face of popular music until the Korean group BTS. They were the only group to have had, I think it was 4 #1 Billboard hits. Anywho, just know that they are incredibly legendary, but it's not just their talent, right, that ultimately makes them successful. It's that they had a level of practice that allowed them to be a world-class expert. We also want to appreciate, though, guys, that it's not just that hard work. It's not just that sort of preparation, if we're considering talent, preparation, and opportunity. It's also opportunity. Remember, Bill Gates was born in October 1955. Bill Joy was born in 1954. We want to appreciate, guys, that the Beatles, right, came at a time when ultimately there was an increasing globalism, and there was also television, right, for the first time, allowing people, to have an international audience. So all of those things really represent the fact that they had opportunity, significant opportunity, unique opportunity. So hard work, opportunity, talent, incredibly important. But I think one of the things that we want to remember is that, as Margaret Atwood tells us in The Handmaid's Tale, better is never better for everybody. So the question that I have to ask you is this: what factors does Gladwell cite that preclude individuals, that keep individuals from devoting the 10,000 hours of practice required for mastery and expert status? I mean, ladies and gentlemen, you're not going to go to college with thousands of hours of coding if your family can't afford the internet. You're not going to have an opportunity to apply for internships that will allow you to have the advantage of exponentially compounding experiences if you have to earn money for your family. So because race and socioeconomic status have been sort of intertwined, sort of gatekeepers, barriers, right, to profound outlier level success, we see sort of a homogeneity, right, a similarness, right, to what it is that oftentimes we see people that are successful look like. So with that, my friends, I want you to consider race, socioeconomic status. I want you to consider gender barriers. So when you consider the ways that sometimes, even if people are willing to put in 10,000 hours or more of work, they still have a barrier to their success. You want to consider Maslow's hierarchy of needs. If you're trying to make sure that your family is fed, you can't become the best cellist in the world. You can't. So, guys, what I would have you discuss in your table group, I'm going to look at two dogs right now and consider this. To what extent are the benefits conferred by 10,000 hours of practice due to talent, preparation, or opportunity? Does 10,000 hours of practice correlate with talent? I would say it probably does, because I'm not super excited myself, Matheny, about spending a ton of time doing things that I do not feel that affirm me. I have talked about how I feel, far more successful in some subject areas than others. And as a result, I've continued to have exponentially compounding experiences in language arts and history that have allowed me to get a greater body of knowledge and ultimately be hopefully a better teacher. So that has something to do with talent, but it also has a lot to do with preparation. Opportunity is also important, right? As somebody who was able to grow up, graduate from high school, and then get the requisite jobs, or I'm sorry, college degrees, I was able to go ahead and get a master's and get this job here teaching you brilliant people at Skyline. That opportunity, in turn, gave me time to do more hours of practice and hopefully, again, become better. So at this point, I want you to consider, what are you likely to spend 10,000 hours on? What are you, right, likely to go ahead and consider are the factors you can control in the thing you'd like to spend 10,000 hours of practice on to be an outlier? So consider, my friends, what are you going to do? It doesn't have to be a thing you've already decided about. Like, a lot of students are like reading, swimming, drawing, playing music, doing sports, all those types of things. But you also can set a goal. You can also decide to, become good at something. TikToking. I mean, please, not 10,000 hours. Although, brave is the person that looks at the amount of time that they're on social media during a pandemic. Focus. So with this, my friends, what do you think you'll put 10,000 hours of practice into in the next 10 years? I, for example, am a teacher. This is the end of my 17th year of teaching. So if we have 180 days in the school year and 7 hours a day, which is actually quite low, probably 10 would be realistic, but 7 hours in the day I'm paid to go ahead and do my work, then that would mean that over the course of one school year, I would spend 1,260 hours going ahead and doing my job. So then over the course of 17 years of teaching, then I would accrue 21,420 hours of teaching. So as you can probably imagine, right, that's going to be a super different classroom experience for my students than somebody who's just begun teaching this year, since I've been doing this for almost 21,000 and a half hours. So ladies and gentlemen, that's kind of my game. What about you? What is your 10,000 hours in? And I would love to hear a little bit more about this tomorrow. Tomorrow, you're going to have an opportunity to either Zoom with us and have a collaborative discussion about what you're taking from the Gladwell, or you're going to have an opportunity to reflect via a journal. So go right ahead, my friends, tomorrow. Come in and have a discussion or share with me what you're thinking privately. You guys, thank you so much. Carry on.